and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Kampir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight, amid the Iran-US tensions, a Chinese private company grabbing attention. After detailing US military deployments near Iran, we are telling you all about the posts, the kind of details being put out, and the implications and questions that come up. Also on the show for you tonight, the key takeaways from the Indian Prime Minister's Israel visit. Also getting you the latest on the Epstein files with Hillary Clinton now set to testify. All this and more coming up. All eyes are on Geneva, where US and Iranian officials have been holding that critical third round of talks that could determine whether the situation, the crisis, moves towards diplomacy or conflict. And at the center of what's been happening is Iran's nuclear program. Remember, Donald Trump has made it clear he prefers a deal, but at the same time, he has also warned that if diplomacy fails, military action remains on the table, including the possibility of limited strikes aimed at pressuring Tehran's leadership. And Iran, for its part, says it does not want war. And in a letter to the UN Secretary General, Tehran warned that it would respond absolutely, resolutely, and appropriately to any attack under its right to self-defense. And these talks also coming against the backdrop of the largest US military buildup in West Asia since the 2003 Iraq invasion, the arrival of the USS Gerald R, the USS Abraham Lincoln Group, additional US aircraft, air defense systems, strategic assets being positioned across the region. We've been telling you about those movements. But then Iran's firepower also cannot be ruled out. Shortly before those talks in Geneva, the US Secretary of State sounded alarm over Iran's missile stockpiles. Here's what he said.
Iran possesses a very large number of ballistic missiles, particularly short-range ballistic missiles that threaten the United States and our bases in the region and our partners in the region. And all of our bases in the UAE, in Qatar, in Bahrain. And they also possess naval assets that threaten shipping and try to threaten the U.S. Navy. So I want everybody to understand that beyond just a nuclear program, they possess these conventional weapons that are solely designed to attack America and attack Americans if they so choose to do so.
Now here's the context for you. That warning from Marco Rubio coming just a day after Donald Trump also mentioned that he fears that Iran's long-range missiles can reach the United States. We told you about what he said. And according to the US Congressional Research Service, Iran possesses short and medium-range ballistic missiles capable of striking targets up to 3,000 kilometers away. But that is, of course, well short of the nearly 10,000 kilometers separating Iran from the United States. Let's just break this down further for you. According to media reports, Iran's Shahab series possesses missile range up to 10,000 kilometers, still under testing, and new claims also emerging, putting that theory to test. Last month itself, Iranian media reports claiming Tehran tested its first intercontinental ballistic missile with a reported range of up to 10,000 kilometers. Adding a whole new dimension to the high-stakes standoff also is China. A private commercial intelligence firm there has drawn international attention for publishing detailed satellite analysis of US military deployments across West Asia. The firm, in its recent posts, reportedly included precise counts and models of American aircraft, tanker movements, air defense systems stationed in the region. And analysts are saying that China is expanding its intelligence and this also raises concerns that such open source intel could benefit Tehran. In recent years, in fact, the firm has also released satellite imagery related to Chinese naval movements, including deployments involving the Chinese aircraft carrier Shandong during the tensions in the South China Sea. The way things stand right now, the stakes could not be higher. Diplomatic efforts continue behind closed doors while military assets are in motion. Switching gears for now, India's Prime Minister stood alongside the Israeli Prime Minister today. Together, they announced a decisive upgrade in the ties, from strong partners to a special strategic partnership. Underscoring the importance of that visit at the delegation-level talks, both leaders pushed the relationship into a new technological and security era. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, announced the launch of a critical and emerging technology partnership. In fact, the two sides will be expanding cooperation in a number of areas.
Critical and emerging technology partnership स्थापित करने का निर्णय लिया है. इससे एआई, क्वांटम और क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स जैसे क्षेत्रों में सहयोग को नई गति मिलेगी. मुझे खुशी है कि इजरायल में यूपीआई के इस्तेमाल के लिए समझौता किया गया है. डिजिटल हेल्थ के क्षेत्र में भी हम अपने अनुभव साझा करते हुए लोगों के जीवन में सुधार लाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं. रक्षा के क्षेत्र में हमारा दशकों पुराना विश्वसनीय सहयोग रहा है. पिछले वर्ष हुए एमओयू से इसमें नए आयाम जुड़ेंगे. हम मिलकर जॉइंट डेवलपमेंट, जॉइंट प्रोडक्शन और ट्रांसफर ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी की दिशा में आगे बढ़ेंगे. साथ ही हम सिविल न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी और स्पेस जैसे क्षेत्रों में भी सहयोग आगे बढ़ाएंगे.
And both the leaders, in fact, acknowledged the significant expansion of defense cooperation in both scale as well as scope. And the MOU, November MOU, providing a unified vision to deepen collaboration across strategic dialogue, training, defense industry partnerships, AI, cybersecurity, research, technological innovation. Beyond defense, both sides signed 16 MOUs spanning innovation, agriculture, maritime, heritage, education, commerce, AI. And they also agreed to enhance bilateral trade and accelerate work towards a free trade agreement. Prime Minister Modi also voiced support for the Gaza peace plan, stating that humanity must never become a victim of conflict. The Jeffrey Epstein saga continues to cast a long shadow, even the highest ranks of power now under scrutiny. After a considerable delay, Hillary Clinton is now set to reportedly testify on the Epstein files in the House of Representatives. In fact, both Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton agreed to appear before the Republican-led House Oversight Committee today and on Friday after the U.S. Congress, remember, threatened to hold them in contempt if they refuse to cooperate. So while there is no evidence of wrongdoing on part of the couple, they also came under the scanner after undated photos of Bill Clinton with Epstein and his close confidant were released in December last year. And their ties allegedly dating back to Bill Clinton's presidential tenure, when Epstein reportedly visited the White House multiple times. The former U.S. president even flew on the convicted sex offender's plane 4 times, reportedly, alleged, on trips for the Clinton Foundation in the early 2000s, allegedly. And while Hillary Clinton has claimed not to have met him, she interacted with Maxwell reportedly on a number of occasions. And the couple has consistently denied having any knowledge of Epstein's crimes at the time when they were acquainted with him. Meanwhile, the ex-U.S. Secretary of State has instead accused the Trump administration of a cover-up over its handling of the Epstein files. In a recent interview, she alleged that the committee was using her and her husband to distract from Trump's ties to Epstein. Now, the Epstein files not just limited to politicians. His links with a number of leading experts, scientists, has taken the world by a storm. Even Stephen Hawking, one of the most renowned astrophysicists in modern history, has been reportedly mentioned in the Epstein files multiple times. A photograph showing him relaxing on a sun lounger while sipping a drink alongside 2 bikini-clad women has now gone viral. It's believed to have been taken at St. Thomas Island, reportedly in 2006, when he was attending a science symposium. However, his family clarifying that the women in the photo were his long-term caregivers. It stressed that any insinuation of inappropriate conduct by him was wrong. While there are no photos of him and Epstein together, he reportedly visited the convicted sex offenders island. Overall, the Epstein files have uncovered the name of close to 30 top scientists and academicians having ties with Epstein, allegedly. This includes Nobel laureate Richard Axel, allegedly, who announced his resignation as the co-director of Columbia University's prestigious Neuroscience Institute. In a statement, he expressed regret over his past association with the convicted sex offender. Similarly, Larry Summers, who served as the U.S. Treasury Secretary during Bill Clinton's tenure as president, declared that he will resign from teaching at the Harvard University at the end of the academic year. And this came after he faced backlash for his personal correspondence with Epstein. Earlier, he also resigned from the board of OpenAI. What also stands out here is the influence that Epstein exercised at the institutional level. In academia, for instance, MIT accepted $800,000 allegedly from Epstein between 2002 and 2017. It's clear that we have not yet seen the last of these Epstein revelations as of now. Our next story is from Mexico, a country which is caught between Trump and drug lords. It might sound like a political thriller, but it's very real. In fact, the country, long scarred by drug violence, now finding itself trapped between 2 powerful forces: the pressure of a somewhat resurgent Donald Trump and the deadly retaliation of its most notorious criminal empires. At the center of this storm was one man better known as El Mencho. For 2 decades, he evaded capture. He outlasted his rivals, in fact, and under his command, the cartel rose to become Mexico's most powerful and feared criminal network, flooding drugs across borders, building a multi-billion-dollar empire. But last Sunday, his run came to a dramatic end. The Mexican forces, acting on intelligence, including key inputs from Washington, tracked him down. Authorities say the final breakthrough came through a personal connection, a romantic link, reportedly, that led the investigators to his hideout. And his killing was not just a strategic victory, it was also political. Let's tell you how. For months now, remember, Trump has publicly pressured Mexico to dismantle the cartels. He warned the US might take matters into its own hands if Mexico failed. He even ordered military action in Venezuela, abducted its president, who now sits in a US prison, signaling that Mexico could be next. And those threats appear to have shifted the calculus in Mexico. In fact, the president, who has consistently defended Mexico's sovereignty, has also reportedly launched one of the most aggressive crackdowns on cartels in over a decade. She has drawn a line recently. She says no US troops were on Mexican soil. The operation was carried out with their cooperation, but without their intervention. Intelligence sharing, including support from the CIA, helped make the operation possible. But Mexico pulled the trigger, and now the consequences, like a mythical hydra where one head of a cartel is cut off, others emerge in the hours after El Mencho's killing. Shootings erupted. Roads were blocked. Vehicles were set on fire. Rival factions are now scrambling for control. Mexico has seen this cycle to contain aftershocks earlier as well. Not only rivals, there are many, in fact, who have been eyeing the seat of the cartel's head. And now new reports putting the focus on the jailed Juan Carlos Valencia, who is the rumored successor of El Mencho. He is one of the senior leaders and inner circle members of the cartel. He is a stepson of El Mencho and holds an American-Mexican dual citizenship, famously known as El Pelon. He is the leader of an armed faction of the cartel. The U.S. State Department also has a bounty of $5 million on his head for information leading to his arrest. And now that's the dilemma that the Mexican president is facing. On one side, an American president demanding results and threatening unilateral action. On the other hand, cartels that respond to every blow with bloodshed. The pressure from Washington has pushed Mexico into a more forceful security strategy. But every forceful move risks unleashing new chaos, and Mexico is walking a tightrope. If it is too soft when it comes to the current situation, then it risks US intervention. If it's too hard, then it risks internal instability. The death of El Mencho may be a hard turning point in the fight against drugs, but it also underscores a hard truth. Mexico is caught between Trump and the drug lords on the ground, between diplomacy and domestic violence, between political pressure and criminal power. The United States is pouring billions into one mission, spying on China. The Pentagon has reportedly allocated an additional $12.6 billion specifically to sharpen America's surveillance of China's military maneuvers, submarines, and satellites. And this is not just routine spending. According to a Bloomberg report, these funds were cleared by the US Congress outside the normal budget cycle. Fast-tracking intelligence upgrades aimed squarely at Beijing's expanding military footprint in the Indo-Pacific. Let's just break this down for you. And where is the money really going? $1 billion has been allocated for aiding classified offensive cyber operations. That means expanding America's ability to not just defend against digital attacks, but also to penetrate and disrupt adversary networks. Another $1 billion will be supporting the U.S. Space Force's operation of Boeing's highly secretive orbital test vehicle. While details of the spacecraft remain largely classified, but the funding signaling surveillance and strategic advantage in space. And then there is $528 million allocated to expand the silent Barker satellite constellation. Early warning spy satellites designed to monitor Chinese or Russian spacecraft that could threaten American systems in orbit. $143 million being set aside to enhance anti-submarine sonar networks. Under the integrated undersea surveillance systems, these seabed sensors provide continuous tracking of enemy submarines, what could be deemed as a critical capability, especially as China rapidly modernizes its naval fleet. All of this funding forming part of a broader $152 billion allocation approved in last year's massive tax and spending package. And that figure stands apart from the already enacted $893 billion fiscal 2026 defense budget. The Pentagon's internal document makes its objective clear: counter what it calls an unprecedented Chinese military buildup in the Indo-Pacific. And what makes this even more striking is the contrast. Because the latest US National Defense Strategy speaks of deterring China through strength, not confrontation, echoing US President Donald Trump's calls for closer trade ties with Beijing, but the fund allocations clearly tell a different story. The world is going through a tumultuous period, to say the least. Conflicts raging around the world, whether it's Ukraine or Gaza. While the battle lines are drawn, journalists at the front lines continue to face risks. As per the latest report released by the Committee to Protect Journalists, a total of 129 media persons were killed in 2025. 129, up from 124 in 2024. Now, this is the highest documented journalist death toll in a calendar year since 1992. Israel alone accounted for a big share of these deaths, reportedly killing journalists across Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran. Among the 86 journalists allegedly killed by Israeli fire, nearly 60% were Palestinians, reporting from Gaza, where huge devastation has been taking place. Additionally, the CPJ accused Israeli military officials of killing 70 journalists in a targeted manner. Drone warfare has also become a lethal tool to silence the press. Deaths of journalists due to drone use escalated from 2 in 2023 to 39 in 2025. 28 of these drone-linked killings have been attributed to Israel. What has also been attracting attention is the lack of accountability for these killings. According to CPJ, no one has been prosecuted for any targeted killings by Israel since the October 7, 2023 attack by Hamas. The global scenario is also dire, with the NGO estimating that 80% of targeted journalist killings across the world since 1992 remain unresolved.
A main driver of the killings is the situation in Gaza. So Israel killing journalists in Gaza. That's a big, accounts for a big percentage of the cases, both in 2024 and 2025. 2/3 of the killings were by Israel in Gaza. Then also entrenched impunity. So this lack of accountability basically supports this system of killing journalists with no consequences.
Now, this is not an isolated case. The Benjamin Netanyahu-led government has been facing criticism for the spate of killings in Gaza since October 2023, of course, which is showing no signs of abating. The concern, of course, since the start of the Israeli aggression, over 72,000 Palestinians have been killed, whereas over twice the number of people injured. Even after signing a 20-point peace plan with Hamas in October last year, Israel's attacks on Gaza have persisted, with 618 deaths and more than 1,600 injuries reported since then. In wake of this, calls have been growing for Netanyahu's government to ensure accountability for the killings and ensure safety of journalists. West Africa is witnessing a terrifying escalation. Terror networks linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State are no longer operating in the shadows along the Nigeria-Niger-Benin borders. They are expanding, striking harder, and also killing more. A new assessment now revealing that violence in this volatile tri-border region has surged significantly in just 1 year. The latest data from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, a US-based global crisis monitoring group, showing that terror attacks across the border areas surged between 2024 and 2025, rising as much as 86%, while fatalities in these areas have increased by 262%. With over 1,000 deaths recorded as extremist groups intensify their campaign, armed factions aligned with Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, meanwhile, have entrenched themselves deeper into northern Benin, southwestern Niger, and northwestern Nigerian states. These areas, once considered transit corridors, are fast turning into active battlegrounds. The pattern showing wider reach, deadlier assaults, and civilians increasingly caught in the crossfire. Nigeria has fought Islamist insurgency, remember, for over 15 years, primarily battling Boko Haram and Islamic State in the northeast. But the threat is also shifting. Terrorists are reportedly now exploiting forests and undergoverned spaces. In the northwestern areas, where limited state presence reportedly gives them room to regroup, recruit, and strike. Across West Africa, extremist factions operate under umbrellas of Al-Qaeda-linked outfits. And their growing footprint has destabilized governments, fueled military coups in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger since 2020. Even a failed coup attempt in Benin last December cited insecurity as the justification. The United States, meanwhile, responded with airstrikes in northwestern Nigeria in December and has deployed a small contingent of troops to train Nigerian forces, but regional coordination has weakened. The military-led governments in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso have pulled back from the regional blocs, complicating the joint counter-terrorism operations. Analysts also warn that rival factions are now openly publicizing their attacks, possibly competing for dominance. That dangerous rivalry could drive even more bloodshed. Porous borders and fragile governance have long made the Sahel vulnerable. Now the question is, can West Africa contain this deadly surge before the region slides deeper into chaos? Here's a look at what else is coming up for you on the show tonight. A detailed report on Kashmir tourism bouncing back. Do chimpanzees love alcohol? What's the story here? Wait till we tell you more. A miracle baby born in the UK. It's a heartwarming story. He is the first child to be born in the UK to a mother with a womb transplant from a dead donor. We tell you all about this, and lots more coming up.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
And welcome back. Thanks very much for staying on with us. Telling you now about a record number of Americans leaving the United States. Once known as the land of immigration, America is now witnessing a wave of immigration. It's a shift not just seen since the Great Depression, but also for the first time in decades. More Americans are moving out than moving in. A striking demographic shift is unfolding, one that's not been witnessed in 250 years, in fact. In 2025, the United States recorded net negative migration. Estimates by the Brookings Institution suggesting the country saw a net loss of around 150,000 people last year, and the outflow is only expected to grow in 2026. Meanwhile, in-migration into the U.S. dropped sharply to between 2.6 and 2.7 million in 2025, down from nearly 6 million in 2023. But the Trump administration is hailing this exodus. Trump is seeing the negative net migration as a fulfillment of his campaign promise. Maximize deportations and minimize newer visas. But then this record surge is not being driven by undocumented migrants alone. An increasing number of US citizens are choosing to leave. They are relocating with their families, seeking countries that are seen as more affordable and safer for them. An estimated 4 to 9 million Americans have left the US as of 2022. Nearly 1.6 million Americans were living in Mexico. More than 250,000 were in Canada, over 325,000 in the UK. Over 1.5 million Americans are estimated to be living across the European continent, in fact. Ireland, meanwhile, welcomed around 10,000 Americans in 2025, roughly double the previous year. Portugal has recorded one of the sharpest spikes. Its American population has surged more than 500% since the COVID-19 pandemic, including a 36% rise in 2024 alone. And in a notable reversal, more Americans moved to Germany than Germans relocating to the United States. Very interesting. Requests to renounce US citizenship, meanwhile, are also on the rise, with a month-long backlog reported. Applications jumped 48% in 2024 and are believed to have increased further in 2025 as Americans seek foreign passports for taxation relief. Education trends mirroring this shift, in fact. International student arrivals in America fell 17% last autumn, while more Americans are enrolling in European universities. But what's also driving this change is interesting. Experts cite Trump's tough immigration crackdown, of course, the America First policy, the surge in remote work, the rising cost of living and inflation in the US, and the tough taxation laws among the reasons. Jammu and Kashmir's tourism industry has once again shown remarkable resilience, with the visitor numbers in 2026 projected to surpass all previous records. The strong recovery also following a challenging period in 2025, marked by security concerns, including the terror attack in Pahalgam. Tourism is now firmly back on the growth trajectory, reflecting renewed traveler confidence and sustained demand. More in the special report by Idris Lone. Take a look.
Tourists are again flocking to Jammu and Kashmir. Be it Gulmarg or Pahalgam, iconic destinations have near full hotel occupancy, bringing in a new chapter of spring in the valley. To ensure that visitors feel safe, security has been significantly strengthened across all major tourist resorts. Tourists say there is no place in the world quite like Jammu and Kashmir.
Kashmir is truly breathtaking and unlike any other place. Everyone should visit it at least once in their lifetime. It really is paradise on earth.
Thousands of visitors turn to the famous gondola rides in Gulmarg. Tourists are in awe as they soak in the breathtaking views of snow-capped mountains.
Of course, there is revival of the tourism in the valley. Tourists are turning up at par with what last year they had been turning up during this same period. So obviously we can say that it is back on the track. No doubt there are ups and downs in tourism. It had been all along in the history of the tourism. But now there is consistency in the figures. I will not diverge in the details of the figures, but they are almost at par with the last year. And I anticipate that in coming days we will be getting more and more tourists, because generally we get tourists in the month of March, April. We get them in abundant numbers.
The valley is back on its feet after facing the brutal Pahalgam massacre in 2025. India continues to dismantle Pakistan-sponsored terrorism and claims about Jammu and Kashmir. More recently, India's representative slammed Pakistan at UN Human Rights Council for spreading misinformation about the development of Jammu and Kashmir.
If the Chenab Rail Bridge, the world's highest bridge inaugurated in Jammu and Kashmir last year, is fake, then Pakistan must be hallucinating or living in the La La Land.
As Valley turns the page to a brighter future, the tourism industry of the Kashmir Valley is hopeful that the spring season will bring a major surge in visitors, potentially breaking all previous tourist footfall records set in past years.
Kashmir Valley finally this winter saw the revival of tourism. As you can see behind me, there are hundreds of tourists that have come to Gulmarg, especially to witness the snowfall in the higher reaches. As you can see, we are at the second phase of the gondola, which is about 14,000 feet above the sea level. And these tourists have come from different parts of the country to witness the snow-capped mountains across the region. Gulmarg has seen the maximum number of tourists coming in the last 1 month. We've seen tourists coming to Pahalgam, tourists coming to Sonmarg, but Gulmarg has been the topmost destination with thousands of visitors visiting in the month of February. With video journalist Feroz Idris Lone for WION World is One.
Moving on for now. The Indian Prime Minister has now set a new global benchmark in the world of digital diplomacy. He has now become the first world leader to cross the 100 million follower mark on Instagram. His audience on the platform now exceeding the combined following of 5 other major global leaders. Let's just break this down. Prime Minister Modi now has nearly twice the followers of Donald Trump, who stands at 43.2 million. He is followed by Indonesia's leader at 15 million, Brazil's leader 14.4 million, and Turkey's Erdogan with 11.6 million. Meanwhile, Argentina's leader standing at 6.4 million. Those numbers on your screen. Now, Prime Minister Modi first joined the platform in 2014, and ever since then, his global following online has been on an upward trajectory. His huge fan following on Instagram, in fact, has also translated into real-time approval ratings as a leader, with that of 70%, according to Statista. But what exactly are the moments that have truly defined his digital presence? Just to mention a few. Of course, his viral carpool selfies with world leaders. His famous selfie with the Russian president did not just break the internet, it reinforced what many call Prime Minister Modi's signature carpool diplomacy. Not only does the Indian Prime Minister personally welcome visiting leaders, he often takes them in his own personal car, turning a simple car journey into a powerful symbol of camaraderie and strategic outreach. Similar selfies of Prime Minister Modi with the French President, the German Chancellor, and the Israeli Prime Minister also went viral. What if growing old did not mean growing forgetful? What if your brain at 80 could work just like it did at the age of, say, 40? Scientists say some people are already doing this, but how exactly? Scientists studying super agers, as they are called, have found something remarkable. Their brains do not shrink at the same rate as most people their age. Key memory regions, particularly areas linked to attention and recall, remain thicker and more active. Brain scans showing stronger connectivity in regions associated with focus, executive function. Some studies suggesting higher levels of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, and even continued neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons later in life. In simple terms, their brains stay flexible. Researchers saying the superagers, or those who are 80 years old, possess a unique structural advantage. While the average brain loses volume, theirs stays robust, powered by a process called neurogenesis. They are not just holding on to old memories, they are physically growing new neural pathways well into their 80s and 90s. And scientists say the brains of superagers contain more newly developed neurons than younger adults in their 30s and 40s. Researchers also found out that those in their 80s tend to be positive and challenge their brain every day by reading or learning learning something new, in fact. And many are physically active and continue to work into their 80s. Science now also proving that high-intensity mental engagement triggers the release of specific growth factors that actually shield the mind against dementia. The message here is quite simple. The brain is a muscle. It demands a workout. Just to put it simply, if you don't challenge the machine, it ends up rusting. And if you do, then your brain remains robust. He's a TikTok influencer. His name is Yanis Barkad, and he says he doesn't need to work. According to him, why work when he can easily claim citizens' allowance? And he, by the way, is causing anger reportedly. He is dubbed Germany's hottest unemployed man, but why is he causing outrage? Simply put, because he has been boasting about living off state handouts. Not just that, he has been putting out content in an attempt to show those watching how to stay jobless. He has reportedly been receiving citizens' allowance for 9 months, according to a report by a TV channel, which reportedly covers his day-to-day expenses. Also thanks to his grandmother, who gave him a flat reportedly. So basically, he has no rent obligations to worry about. But he also reportedly says his new lifestyle is not entirely perfect. When asked if he thought people like him should be put under more pressure to work, for example, he reportedly suggested that forcing people to do jobs they don't want to do was bad for the public mood. So there is anger among people amid warnings that the country can no longer afford its welfare state. But for now, he has been making headlines, getting a lot of attention, all while not actually doing any work and being what could be called fun employed. Alcohol comes with health warnings, age limits, and long lectures. But who exactly is going to explain that to a chimpanzee in the middle of a forest? Because in parts of Africa, the party has been going on for years. Our next report telling you more about what we are talking about.
We are often told to drink responsibly, count the units, mind the liver. But in the jungle, the rules are different. No glasses, no bartenders, just fruit, heat, and chemistry. Deep in African forests, wild chimpanzees have been observed deliberately consuming fermented fruit. When ripe fruit falls and sits in the sun, natural sugar turns into alcohol. A study published in the Royal Society Journal Biology Letters has shown that chimpanzees living the forests of Uganda regularly ingest enough naturally occurring alcohol to register levels that, in some workplaces, would trigger disciplinary action. Chimps seek palm wine daily. They chew holes in trees, slap the sap as it ferments into alcohol. Researchers have observed the chimps showing clear signs of intoxication, stumbling, socializing aggressively, and falling into deep booze-induced naps. But the chimps are not drinking alone in the wild. Across the savannah, elephants have gained a legendary reputation for their love of the amarula fruit. When these yellow treats ferment on the ground, they turn into potent alcohol bombs. Scientists believe this behavior is no accident. Many wild fruits naturally ferment in the heat. The resulting alcohol is not just calorific. It may help attract animals to disperse seeds. A little inebriation could be part of nature's design. So next time you raise a glass, remember you're not alone. The wild world might just be clinking bottles right alongside you. Bureau Report, WION, Wild is One.
You've probably seen this happen time and again already, closely observed it, and now a study confirms it. Cats don't need owners for emotional support. Let's just tell you a bit more. The study has found felines are more independent as compared to dogs and don't need their owners emotionally at all. As heartbreaking as this is, not surprising at all at the same time, the experiment showing while dogs look to their owners for reassurance and protection, the picture is quite different when it comes to cats. Just to put this simply, it found that no more likely to seek comfort from their owner than a stranger. According to experts, while dogs depend on human beings, pretty much becoming fur children, cats are entirely self-reliant. So cats may get along with us, but they don't depend on the help or security that humans provide. So while dogs can be a bit like children and rely on humans, that is not the case for cats. The study involved cats being placed in different situations, including when they were just with a stranger or just with the owner or with both of them present in another situation. According to researchers, this is evidence that there is no sign of cat-owner attachment. Dogs show strong reliance on human support when they face a problem, while cats do not. Dogs are stressed when they are left alone. And this stress cannot be efficiently eased only by the presence of the owner. But that's not the case as far as cats are concerned. So whether you are a dog parent, a cat parent, or have both as pets or neither, this study definitely confirms what we have been observing for the longest time. Cats are fine on their own and don't actually need us. Our next story is about the birth of a baby in the UK. It's an extraordinary story. Here's why. Meet Hugo. He's a miracle baby. You know why he's making headlines? He is the first child to be born in the UK to a mother with a womb transplant from a dead donor. The woman says she is the happiest she has ever been in her life. She herself had described the birth of the baby as a miracle. Let's just tell you more about how this was made possible. The woman was born with a rare condition. It's called MRKH syndrome. It basically causes an underdeveloped or missing womb. She had received a transplanted womb from someone who had died and started fertility treatment several months after the transplant in 2024. And in order to make sure the woman does not have to be taking immunosuppressant drugs throughout her life, the transplanted organ will be removed when required, basically after the couple have finished having children. With the birth of this baby, she says she has been able to fulfill her lifelong dream of being a mother, and that there are no words to express gratitude to the donor and her family. It's a heartwarming story and a first, being the first birth in the UK using a womb from a deceased donor. In fact, only 2 previous cases have been reported in Europe, and around 25 to 30 babies have reportedly been born worldwide from deceased womb donation. Kebab is recognized as one of the UK's favorite delicacies. Once seen as an unhealthy late snack in some ways, it's now consumed in various forms, such as a sit-down meal with family and friends, or just as a quick lunch or snack on the go. In this backdrop, the British Kebab Awards have emerged as a true celebration of the kebab industry. These awards were launched in 2013 to basically celebrate the cultural and economic impact of the UK's kebab industry. It entails UK's members of parliament nominating their best kebab restaurants, after which select outlets receive a prize. Some of the award categories including Best Delivery, Best Kebab House, Best Lebanese Restaurant, Best Takeaway. This year, the judges of the year's Kebab Awards included Chief Whip of House of Commons Jonathan Reynolds, MPs Sharon Hodgson, Caroline Noakes, among others. In fact, The 14th British Kebab Awards also proved to be an opportunity for UK's Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy to buttress his humble origins and endear himself to entrepreneurs at the same time. As a guest speaker at this event, he said that he owes a lot to the industry as his first job was actually in a fast food restaurant. However, he glossed over the fact that he worked at KFC and not an actual kebab joint. Now, why is this industry gaining so much traction? As per reports, the first kebab shop in UK is believed to have opened in northeast London as early as 1966. It's now a huge industry, in fact, with over 20,000 operational kebab houses in the UK. And according to estimates, more than 70,000 people are employed in this business, which is now worth over 2.6 billion US dollars. The popularity of this delicacy is evident from the fact that close to 1.3 billion kebabs are sold on a daily basis. In a historic move, Ramzan and the act of fast breaking found a spot on the fashion runway at London Fashion Week. A British Yemeni designer who has been showcasing her collection at the London Fashion Week as part of the British Fashion Council's New Gen initiative paused her presentation at sunset. She shared iftar with the models, staff, and the guests who were also fasting. Titled Hour of the Sunset, the presentation revolved around Ramzan, the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, observed by Muslims worldwide. The decision to pause the show was a deliberate one. In fact, for example, guests were required to sit on the floor on the cushions inspired by her grandmother's lounge. Interestingly, the menu was also a special one. It included Iraqi dishes from Juma kitchen and Palestinian dates. But the show also had other highlights. For example, she disrupted traditional gender codes by making a female model wear a Yemeni dagger belt historically reserved for men. On that note, it's a wrap. Thanks for watching.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. More than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION. World is one.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is one.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. More than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage